I promise I'm not about to rap. I'm David Moore, CEO and founder of Cut Lifestyle TV and brand. I'm a master certified personal trainer of 18 years. And one thing I'm truly great at is being a personal trainer. So, this is my gift to you. I created the 7S method on how to become a great trainer. Training guidelines by me, David Moore. The reason I'm creating this is because in the fitness industry, we have a lot of gray area. Each individual is their own business, and unfortunately, it's not properly handled as such. So, this will give you the keys and the tools to effectively run your business. All right, first S, and none of this means anything if you can't make sales. You have to be comfortable with speaking. If you have some sort of anxiety, you ADHD, you don't like being in public, you're not good one on one with communicating, you're going to have a very hard time. And that's what you need to work on because at the end of the day, you have to communicate with someone. Selling your appearance. People are coming to you based on your visual look. They see you first, right? And if you're selling, let's say, a powerlifting program, but you don't necessarily look like a powerlifter, that already shows to someone new that you don't know proof of concept. Your appearance is a requirement in a visually driven industry. Okay? It's non-negotiable if you want to be successful. Next, selling your wisdom and or experience. The other reason people are coming to you is because you have some sort of knowledge that they don't have. And piggybacking off of the first one, they're going to see you. I'm sorry, after the appearance one, they're going to see you, right? And visually to them, being a new person, you look like you have some sort of experience. It's your responsibility to share that with them. That's what's going to aid you in negotiations, interactions with this client. They're coming to you for your wisdom and experience, however much you have in whatever industry, I'm sorry, what field you're in. Market specific pricing is next. You have to make sure you are offering services that match what you charge. If your environment, be it a boutique style gym, franchise style gyms, whatever's available in your area, do research. Different locations have different prices. So you want to make sure that you're matching that. Because if you go too low, the first thing people will ask you are, why are you so cheap? And again, sometimes cheap comes out expensive. And then if you're very high, they're going to ask, why are you so expensive? What exactly are you doing differently to justify that price point? So you can't just set a price that you'd envision, hey, I want to charge $1,500 an hour, but you don't have the experience, the research to match it. So you want to be competitive in the industry, but you do want to set yourself apart. So do your research in your market, wherever you are. What type of packages do you offer is next. Costs, amounts, payment options, which again, this is your business. So let me give you an example. You could say, hey, I want to offer bi-weekly payments for my clients, or I want to do 3 months at a time for my clients. Every single one of those options is your discretion, is your business. But also now they have like Klarna, Affirm, they have those options set up for people too, based upon what the person's capability is. Because again, you want to meet people where they're at. You don't want to come off as this person who's clearly just trying to get over on someone. You want to make sure your client base is being met. If you're in an environment, right? Let's say whatever community, whether it's inner city, whether it's a high retail, high commercial industry, you want to meet those people where they can fund their investments, meaning you. So whatever that looks like, sometimes you have people that want to use credit cards. If you want to accept credit cards, that's perfectly fine, but establish what options are available for your clients. Again, your business, your way. Never become pushy. Give alternatives. Look, all of the ads people see, phones, they turn on their television. Think about this now. Even streaming services are now incorporating ads. People are bombarded with ads when they leave the house. Sales, sales, sales. Buy, 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 buy. You being a person they're talking to face, they're communicating with you. You don't want to come across as pushy. And you always want to make sure they have alternatives. I give you a great example. Let's say you have a package and this person really wants to partake in this package, right? But they don't necessarily feel that they're ready to take all the steps that you offer. Maybe you got like a 8-week program, 12-week program, something like that. But they're like, hey, you know what? Let me get my diet in check first. Offer them a nutrition plan. You see what I'm saying? Like offer them something to at least get them started, or maybe a different price point to walk them into something else. Because maybe they're right now money is tight, but give them a little time, they'll be able to fully purchase a package or a bigger package. So don't come across pushy, because the last thing we need is more sales. They'll end up just muting your text messages, blocking you on social media. So you definitely don't want to come across as pushy, all right? First S. The second S, services. What do you offer? You, not me, not anyone else. What exactly do you offer? Yoga instructor, Pilates, powerlifter, athletic coach. What exactly do you offer? And you should have this question answered before you even think about becoming a trainer. Make sure you are offering services to your strengths. Don't try to be something you're not. Don't try to be me. Don't try to be somebody on social media. Focus on what you offer to the best of your capabilities. Accountability and punctuality. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. This is huge. And I don't mean it from the client space. I'm saying from the trainer space. You have to remember Walmart has set times that they are open, right? And they open when that sign says they should be open. They close when that sign says they should close. The same way you expect your clients to show up on time. You guys agree that 5 a.m. is the start time. You should be there before them. You should be on time. Now, you have the option of offering grace periods. Again, it's your business and you handle it accordingly. But you being the leader, You lead by example. So if you can't get up to meet your clients at an agreed time, don't set that as a block in your schedule. If you have to, you know, I give you guys a horror story. A trainer had a client. The client used to call and wake the trainer up to be at the session. That's not going to work. Okay. So you have to make sure you are just as accountable as the client. You're not going to keep making money if you're not. Now, this next one is, and I'm going to give you a trick exactly what I use. Now, okay, the previous one, accountability and punctuality, right? Let me give you an example. You guys agree that 6 o'clock is the start time for this particular session. Now, you need to know your capability in that time frame because let's say it's 6 p.m. and not 6 a.m. 6 p.m. looks very different in the space than 6 a.m. You need to assess the area and the crowd. What can you do in the space in that time period? Because if it's gym o'clock, that's the phrase that I use when everybody shows up, you're going to have a little bit of space and minor resources. A franchise gym I used to work for when I first started training around gym o'clock, 4, 5, 6 p.m., all you would get is like a square on the floor to give your clients an entire workout, which that square may, if you're lucky, account to a machine. So you would get one machine, and let's say you're training an hour. Some people offer different time frames for their services. Uh, what are you going to do in that one square for that time period? Now, watch this. If you're showing up right at the time of this session and it's gym o'clock, you got a problem because you don't know what your capability is. You didn't game plan, or you have people utilizing the space or the objects that you wanted to use. So you have to assess the area and crowd and what can you do in that space and time. So I like to get to my space at least 15 minutes before my clients and do a walkthrough. If it's busier, I'll try and get there half an hour earlier and do a walkthrough. So I know exactly what's about to happen and I'm preparing for it to give the best and most efficient service. Next, what time slots are available? Again, it sounds very simple, but a lot of times people just jump in chasing and they don't even go over what time they're going to offer. You need to know beforehand exactly what is available to someone because they have an idea of what they want, when they want to train, but you have to make sure that there's a slot available for them. You could be recruiting a client, right? And the client is all on board and they're ready, and then they like, hey, I can only train at 6 o'clock, and you have, let's say, two people booked on different days for a 6 o'clock slot. And that may be the only time in this person's schedule because maybe they got to take their kids somewhere, or they have programs after that, or it's a shutdown and they get ready to go to bed. And then you just lost the client because you didn't do the work of the pretense of telling them when the time slots are available. So you have to make sure you know firsthand. Next, on top of those time slots available, your hours of operations. Remember, you are a business. When you have slots available, you need to make sure that you want to be there, that you are willing to operate during those time periods. If you are taking clients and you don't want to be there, right? Let's say you take a 8 p.m. client, okay? And you don't want to be at the gym because you got stuff to do, or you don't want to be in your boutique, what have you, because you have stuff to do. That's going to reflect onto your client. They're going to see that you don't want to be there. Or maybe you just flat out give half effort, or your mind is somewhere else because you didn't want to be there in the first place. You have every right to not work at a certain time. It's your business. And the client has to accept it. The same way you go to a pharmacy, right? You got to pick up a prescription, or you're just picking up something for convenience. If you show up at the wrong time and they're closed, do they open the store for you? Of course they don't. You got to come back during those business hours, during those hours of operations. So it's the same mindset. Whether you want to work in the morning, you want to start at 3 a.m., or, maybe you want to take the afternoon load, 12 to 7. Those are your hours of operations, but you need to establish those, make time slots available, and communicate that to your client so they can navigate their schedule accordingly. But you have to make sure that you are going to put forth maximum effort. If it's going to be a struggle, you need to manipulate your hours of operations. Next, we have policy agreements. Yes, there needs to be policies in place. On top of all of your protocol you should establish when starting your business, because this is a business, you want to make sure that you and your clients are on the same page. Because what will happen is you'll have different silent agreements that one person was thinking one thing and when the other person was thinking that. If you guys aren't on the same page, right? The same way you walk into a franchise gym and they give you that long sheet of all these requirements and agreements, again, whatever it is, you sign off on that. And then that person is responsible for meeting those agreements. So you, the individual, the business owner, you need to set up a policy on what you specifically want and don't want for your business. I'm gonna give you guys a gem. Chat GPT is really great at helping set up policies. But again, even in using Chat GPT, you still have to give it the prompts. So it could come up with a generic policy, but you have to know exactly what you want that policy to look like. But you must implement it for great professional services. This next one is really important. It's flexibility or no flexibility. Now, remember, all right, this is your business. Again, it's your business, your rules, your policy. You may want to offer, uh, I don't want to say privileges, but grace more so to a particular client or clients. Your choice. But the same way you need to communicate that with them on the grace that you're giving. So let me use my personal example. One example. I have client A. Client A is a political figure in Chicago, right? Uh, on top of him being a political figure, he also has a disability. Now, him being a political figure requires him to meet meetings, excessive traveling, being in negotiations at any given time for extended periods of days at a time. Also, because of his disability, that limits his ability to travel, how long it takes, and his capability of sessions, setting up sessions, time frames, if you would. So I, because we were aware at the beginning of his disability and his status, communicated to him, we will pick days that are ideal for you leading up to the week. Communicate to me your schedule, and if anything changes, it's not a penalty. Also, we pick the time frames. I give him slots, available slots for him to insert himself into those slots, because we may agree to 9 o'clock and he gets a call that is extended for an hour or two that he cannot control. So I make sure that we are accommodating to his needs as well as my needs. That's something you may or may not want to offer. I also, for example, I assist with getting him out of his vehicle and putting him in his vehicle. So even with something like that, I have to extend an additional 15 minutes in between my clients just because of that, to offer that flexibility to him to make sure he's safe. We're not rushing. It's not creating more problems and confusion, but that's my business and the flexibility I want to offer to client A. So you have to assess what level of flexibility you want to offer to your client or clients. Lastly, time frame for services. What's your range? You might want to do 30-minute sessions. You might want to do hour and a half sessions. Some franchise gyms sell sessions at 30 minutes. You might have clients who are, let's say, they're elderly, right? And they can't make it an entire hour if you are offering an hour or an hour and a half. What's the time frame for the services? And of course, you would be making adjustments based upon the time frame. But you have to decide what's best. And again, you're communicating this with your clients. Make sure your price points match your services. But again, your business, your way. What's the time frame? All right. The third S, oh so important. You should forever be a student. Study, research your clients' needs and wants. In this era of information overload, you need to make sure you can effectively understand what your client needs and wants. If that means you are researching what they are researching, if you are reading what article they are reading, research your client's needs and wants. Next, allow for healthy comparisons for visual goals. Your client is going to see some sort of imagery almost daily, if not repeatedly daily, about how they can get to a certain look in a set amount of time. Now, the person that's purporting this advertisement may have previously been in shape, may be an athlete, maybe a bodybuilder, may already be an instructor, but they're selling something to the customer and they're telling them something or a half truth, right? So you need to explain to your client what's realistic for them, not something that they've seen or someone they're trying to compare themselves to. Look, you got to be willing to try new ideas and exercises, not only for your craft, but also because everything else, again, that information overload, there's so much coming in to your customer that they're going to have questions and they're going to want to try different things. The beauty of it is, with you being willing to try new ideas, they will just take those ideas and bring them to you because you've built the level of trust, as opposed to trying to go to their source to get the new exercise or approach. So you have to be willing to try new things to keep it fresh, especially if you have a client that has a long-term goal, be it weight loss or a competition marathon. You need to make sure that they can keep it fresh and keep they're coming to you for accountability, discipline, and structure. The last thing you want for them is to hit a plateau mentally because you keep doing the same things over and over. They won't hang around. But you should also be able to explain why you won't do a new idea or exercise. Let them know that there's a risk or, potential injury, or maybe it's just above their skill set. Maybe they're not there yet. That's perfectly fine, but explain that to them. Next, you should be reading articles and watching videos because I guarantee you they are. Your client is keeping track of the newest trends, the newest exercises. It's all over the place. They're being bombarded constantly, and then society has this disgusting ability to tell you that you're not doing enough, that you're not adequate enough. We've seen what happened with the fashion world all of these years. They constantly tell you you're not beautiful enough. The fitness industry is no different. They tell you that you need to lose weight and you're out of shape, even if you are in shape. You should be leaner, you should be faster, you should be stronger. So they will be hit with these things. And if you're not willing to let them know, hey, this is just some misinformation, this is from a source that clearly has some sort of agenda, or they're trying to purport some product behind it, you have to be willing to read and watch videos. Next, ask questions about the habits and their lifestyle. And I know some of us don't want to get personal, right? We want to keep it strictly professional, and you don't want to know what's going on uh, at home. I'm sorry to tell you this. It's imperative that you do, because their home life, their lifestyle, is going to dictate what kind of client you have and also their performance. So here's a great example. If your client isn't getting enough sleep, what kind of performance do you think they're going to have? If they regularly only get 4 hours of sleep, right? They won't have physical energy. They won't have mental energy. You're going to have a difficult time, not only in the session with this client, but also the progression of the client. Then you got another example. Let's say that same client who only sleeps 4 hours, the reason being they only get 4 hours is because they have dogs and a child and an argument of spouse and a stressful job. Those things will dictate their performance. And if you aren't willing to assist them in manipulating better practices, you know, potentially changing some things, you're going to have a hard time progressing with that client, because that lifestyle is spilling over into your time with them. So you need to ask questions about your client's habits and lifestyle. Alcohol, prime example. This person likes to drink, right? Drug usage. What do you think the performance is going to look like? The progression, the weight loss, the muscle gain, the mental fortitude from this person. If you're not asking these questions, you have to. Next, Exactly what I just mentioned. Ask questions about their household structure. For an example, I had a client who he complained about his inability to lose weight, right? Because of the food that came into the house. But his wife was solely responsible for getting the groceries. So I asked him, have you ever tried to do the grocery shopping? He's like, yeah, I used to do it before. I'm like, okay, well, if your wife isn't willing to help you get you to your goals with attaining the groceries that you need, you should look into getting the groceries yourself for what you need. Or maybe you need to have a conversation with your wife about the very well being and direction for yourself and for your goals. So I know we want to try not to fix relationships and things or what have you, but that will spill over into your client's performance. So you have to ask questions about the structure, the habits, the lifestyles. Next, this one is very overlooked and can sour your client immediately. Pay attention to triggers. Uh, I hate saying this because we do have a responsibility to provide the services requested of our clients, right? That they're paying for. But every person, you got to remember you're dealing with a person first, has different things that they like or don't like. It could be phrases that you use, it could be exercises that you use. Like, let's just say maybe your client doesn't want to do bodybuilding exercises. Maybe your client doesn't like political conversation. Maybe your client doesn't like a curse word that you use, one in particular, or how you speak with other people. They see those things and it can sour them almost instantly. So you really have to pay attention to triggers. Also, for training and exercise and protocol, you need to realize when is a level of discomfort with the person you're dealing with. So if you're just running your business and all you care about is running your business, but your trainer is constantly going to the bathroom, constantly checking out, picking up their phone, there's a level of disinterest. There's something that needs to be addressed. So pay attention to triggers. Next, follow trends and popular techniques, practices, equipment. These things, for like great example with booty building, the last 5 years specifically, I want to say the industry has shifted. There have been more machines created that enhance it, exercises that have focused on it. And you need to be willing to incorporate or not incorporate based upon what you can offer. Different machines for yourself or for your establishment, they can make things easier for you or they can make things harder for you if you're not willing to follow the trends. Remember, the keto diet came out, and people who weren't working out were losing weight and, trying to figure out if they even needed to work out. So, as trainers, we needed to show people that, hey, this is why this diet worked. These are the next steps for you in trying to achieve a physique that you desire. So stay on top of these trends, even if you may like them or not, because again, your client is. And lastly, develop your skills and knowledge, just like a job, right? You continue to go to, they have, what do they do? The videos that update things like, oh, we have a presentation, You guys need to sign off at this meeting we have on a new skill set that's came about, and you need to be verified and approved for it. It's the same thing in running a training business. You need to make sure that you are constantly developing, because not only are you enhancing your craft, but you're allowing yourself to open your portfolio up. So, developing your skill sets and acquiring more knowledge, now you can go and offer more services. You can have better sales. You can have a variety of clients as long as you're willing to continue and develop, as we all should. Make sure you're studying, trying to enhance your craft, because it'll make things easier for you and more lucrative. All right. We are on the fourth S. Okay. Thank you for staying with me. All right. And hey, skills. You can't make money unless you have skills. So define your skill set, exactly who and what you are. You need that to translate directly to your client. All right. What's your skill set? What do you do? What acupuncture, uh, athletic training, speed coach, endurance coach, running coach, yoga instructor. What's your skill set? And don't try and change your skill set to accommodate someone you admire and you want to work with, but you're not prepared, because it'll show in your work. Stick with what works, grow what you know, but don't try and do something you have no business doing. Example, I've never been a fan of powerlifting. I respect it, I applaud it. I have peers that are powerlifters, and mutual respect, and we encourage each other. But that's not what I wanted for myself, and that's not something I wholeheartedly support and believe in. So I don't train it. Very simple. Next, what are your strengths? Highlight those, augment those, work on those, because that's exactly what you're selling. You never want to sell half of something. If you go to the store, right, and you want orange juice, you pick up an orange juice and there's half of something in there. Are you gonna buy that? You go put it back on the shelf, probably report it or throw it away, but you damn sure not go buy it. All right. What are your strengths? Things that you do well. Okay. Translate your skill set to your client's needs. So what that means is, right? Let's say you have a client that's weight loss, and you've been training weight loss clients. You have references, reviews. Maybe you lost weight yourself. Translate how you've have all of this experience, knowledge, application to exactly what they need. Maybe you are an instructor and you have a vegan lifestyle or a pescatarian lifestyle, and a client comes to you and they tell you, "Hey, I've been thinking about practicing alternative diets." Explain that to them. Hey, these last 5 years I've been vegan. I transitioned from, a meat eating lifestyle. I have an area of expertise that's a strength for you. All right. Speak that to your client. Next, lead by example. Never, never experiment with clients unless you have tried it. Do not attempt to figure it out with someone who is paying you. or is about to pay you, you will lose them unless they specifically request, hey, today can we try this particular exercise? And even still, you have the power of overriding it, saying no, or maybe next week, let me fine tune it first. But you do not want to take a video or something you read, an approach, and practice it with a client. It'll be your first and last time. All right. Never experiment with your clients unless you tried it first. Lastly, explain your skills technique to them. And I've noticed a lot of trainers don't necessarily. They'll have a client come to them and they speak about, what they can offer them, but let them know exactly what you're capable of, your skills, your range, how you work, or the window you're willing to work with. Explain that to them so they know exactly what they get. Right. So I give you a great example. I have a client and he came in and he wanted to move directly into bodybuilding style exercises. The problem is he suffered an accident 4 years previously and never went through proper PT to recover from the accident. So what happens is, in me doing an assessment with him, I realized he needs a lot of work on his lower half and legs because of said injury from the accident. So I had to explain to him, I know you want to jump into a bodybuilding style program, but based upon your skill set, your level of activity, your injuries, we need to do more physical therapy style exercises, which I am capable of, but I need you as the client to understand that we have to gradually build. We have to reinvent the wheel with you because he never did PT. So I explained to him my capability, exactly what we're going to do with these exercises to get you to that point. So we will do these small exercises to rebuild your hips, rebuild your knees, rebuild your core, and then we can progress to those type of exercises. But I explained that to him before we even came to an agreement. So always explain your skills technique to the client to let them make the best informed decision for their self. All right. S number 5. And this one is so important. It's your style. Now, it's not necessarily how you dress or, it's think of it like your tone. So let's jump in. What differentiates you? And you have to remember that you are a brand. So you are in this industry, you're comparing yourself, but not comparing yourself. So, what makes you stand out? What do you do differently that other people don't do? Not berate, not disrespect, but you're explaining how you differentiate versus everyone else. I'll give you an example. If the majority of your gym has uh, one style of training, but you have a different approach, that's your style. If one, set of trainers in your gym is more paper based and another group is technology based, that's your style. What makes you different? than everybody else. And again, neither one is wrong or right. It's just how you brand yourself. All right. Next, why they need you. Because of those things that you use to differentiate yourself, the point underneath, this is where you brand yourself. Let the client know exactly why they need you. Hey, you coming in here and you said you want a holistic style trainer, right? Well, guess what? I'm the man for that. And no disrespect to my peers, but that's my area of expertise. This is what I do. So if you're coming in here looking for, um, a carnivore diet, that's someone else. So you're letting them know this is why you need me. This is what I do. Or I'm a very professional style trainer. I like to have my T's and I's crossed and dotted. Again, this is where you brand yourself. Next, we got training approach, communication. Example, intelligence. Are you a cerebral trainer or brutality? You have some trainers who don't care, just do it. Which one are you? Again, neither one is wrong. You're just identifying how you provide your service. So you have to be mindful of exactly what you offer and convey that to them. So, for instance, I tell my clients, right? I say, look, I'm going to push you and we're going to work harder than you ever worked, but I'm not going to disrespect you. I'm not going to curse at you. I'm not going to degrade you. So that's what I communicate to them to give them expectations and also let them know I'm pushing them from a space of love as opposed to get out of your own way. Neither one is wrong. Just communicate that effectively with your client. Next, we have dexterity. Can you do more than one style and why? There's nothing wrong with that. Maybe you can do boot camp classes. Maybe you can be the drill sergeant. Maybe you can be the therapist. Maybe you can be the intimate coach, sitting down, taking time with their clients. There's nothing wrong with that. And if you can do both at a high level, please let them know. Because again, that's extending your services. In this day and age, with YouTube University and the rise of AI, you're going to have to truly communicate to your client base exactly why you're special. Because what happens when a budget comes in, right? Or money's tight, we got inflation. The first thing that goes is services. But if you're providing value in more than one respect, they're going to view you differently. You become a service, you go from being a service to a necessity. And now you're at the head of their budgeting list. So if you can do more than one thing, explain that. If you can do it well, effectively communicate that with your clients because it extends your services. And lastly, tone of voice or lack thereof. And what I mean by that, okay, here's an example. There's a trainer who has a small voice. She's great at what she does, but number one, she struggles with language barrier, and also she has a very small voice, meaning very weak, very tiny voice. Not loud, it's not boastful, it's not deep. So what she does, she places her hand on the client to communicate with the client, which again, you have to make sure that you come to an understanding. Maybe you have a big, boastful voice with your clients, but you have to remember you become the voice in their head. So, how you communicate with them, think of how your parents communicated with you. You're their coach. So, you have to remember how you talk to them stays with them during the rest of their day. So, that's how you brand yourself. That's your style. The 6S. And I'm not going to lie to you, this one can make or break your career. It can be the beginning and the end. It's number 6, but I guarantee you it's always number 1. Safety. Seriously. This is that gray area that every day is straddled, and you need to make sure let me say this. If you haven't been paying attention to any of the other S's, right? This is the one you follow and abide by, because this is what's going to separate you from doing this part time and being okay to taking this to the next level and taking it to the top. Is not playing with safety. All right. The first one. And I'm kind of in the way on the end, but I'll read it to you. Establish boundaries for verbal communication. You need to express to your client how you will talk to them and how you want it to be talked to. Back to the previous point of triggers, you could say something and it'll blow everything with this client. They'll be done. Or they sour your future business because how you communicated or didn't communicate with them. So you have to establish boundaries for your verbal communication. Okay? All right. This next one. Touchy, touchy, touchy. No relationships or sex with clients. And I'll put that specifically because we know how we've been in situationships. It's not a relationship. We just sleep together. No. 99, let me say this 99.9% of the time, no relationships or sex with clients. You have to remember they are in the utmost vulnerable state when they're coming to you. So they will view you in a certain light, almost as a savior for them. And you have a responsibility not to take advantage of your clients. All it takes is one bad relationship to destroy your business. One. One bad sexual experience to destroy your business. You could be great at training, but you crossed one of your clients, or the relationship soured, or you did something inappropriate in your sexual activity. You embarrassed them. Whatever it is, that comes back, and I guarantee you that is the beginning of the end of your business. Okay? No, 99.9. I love that point one because sometimes you have people that are coming from walking into a new life and they need direction. And it's always a point one, man. It's always a point one. But don't lean on that point one because it's there. No relationships or sex or situationships. I should have put that in there with clients. Don't exchange sessions for sex. None of that. Okay. Let's go to the next one. Establish boundaries for physical contact or lack thereof. You might want to place your hand somewhere to feel, that a client is contracting or squeezing. Uh, I'll give you an example. I'm not a touch. I don't like touching my clients. Nothing personal, but sometimes I have to. So what I'll do is not only will I communicate, hey, I'm going to. I want you to squeeze your shoulder blades. So I'm going to stick my finger in the middle of your shoulder blades and I want you to squeeze it as hard as you can. Or what I do, if I'm going to, let's say we're training legs or glutes, I'm not putting my hands on my client's glutes. I'll use my knuckle. Hey, I'm gonna touch my knuckle on the side of your leg or your glutes. Are you okay with that? Okay. Most times your clients trust you. You built that rapport. They respect you. But you have to communicate that because if for one reason you touch them it, instantly, you already know. I don't even have to finish that statement. You touch them inappropriately, again, these can end your business. That's what I'm saying. This is the 6S, but any one of these can end your business. Establish boundaries or lack thereof. Now, personal visual boundaries. Staring at breasts, buttocks, crotch. And before you say, well, how will they know if they're facing the opposite direction that I'm staring at their butt? Guess what? People look. If your client is facing, opposite direction, and you think, hey, let me stare at her butt, you know, uh, horribly, I guarantee you, other people in that setting are watching you. If you gawking, your mouth is open, or you big eyes, other people are watching. And that same thing, now that's going to hinder your business. That's going to hinder your development because the word is spreading that you're a creep. All right. So, what I like to do is I will step off to the side. And if I'm counting, I'll turn and count. Or I'll look at a different area on that person, stare at their shoulder, stare at their foot, something like that. But don't sit there, stare, and gawk because you will look like a creep, even if you're focusing on the target area. He or she is training chest, and you got your mouth open while they're squeezing their chest together. That's not a good look. Plain and simple. All right. Next, establish spacing boundaries. Now, what I mean by that is we, as we progress, and I mean client trainer, we get comfortable with each other, right? We sharing stories, we laugh and cracking jokes. You might be showing you a video on your phone or something in between sets. But because we're cool, your client or vice versa, you as a trainer, you might get a little bit too close to the person. And you need to say, hey, you mind backing up a little bit, or, you kind of in my space, or I don't want to get that close to you. You have to establish safe boundaries. Communicate it. Open your mouth. All right. Next, this one is really big. Establish fluid and hygiene boundaries. This one is tricky. And I've had a lot of people, when I've done this in workshops, ask about this particular point because of the hygiene instances. Now, fluid, what I mean is like spitting. It's very common. Someone's pushing hard and they might spit, or um, sometimes with deadlifting, you have urine or vomit, you know, uh, Communicate that with your person. Hey man, you spit on me. Can we do something about that? Or maybe you just don't give a shit. You go wash your face, whatever it is. The hygiene part. This is the one. Now, yes, different cultures, different backgrounds have different practices. And even here in America, you have holistic lifestyle, you have uh, natural lifestyles. We have a myriad of backgrounds that may have different hygienial practices, which may or may not agree with, or you might be sensitive to. You have to explain to your clients exactly what you expect, because at the end of the day, it is your business. And if you are uncomfortable, or there is a scent that this person has, wears, that you don't like, it's going to show in your actions. Or you might start excessively training this person. You might become belligerent towards this person because you hate the smell that they wear. And how you handle this, I had someone ask me, well, how do you handle this? If your client doesn't wear deodorant, you do have an option to not take them. You do have an option to turn them down. It is your business. You do have a right to refuse service. Or you can communicate, look, I understand your practices. I do have a certain level of expectation when it comes to appearance and scent. Would you mind possibly incorporating a different scent into your lifestyle? Again, you leave it open for interpretation. If they're offended, they say no, you have every right to turn down service. But at least you communicate with them as opposed to turning your nose up or now you're uncomfortable. Because again, even if your client doesn't see it, people next to you in your setting see it, other members see it, other clients see it. So you have to let them know. Stand on exactly what you want and like and don't like, and let them know how you want to handle things moving forward. Next, trigger words, phrases, and topics. If you have to ask, don't. If you have to ask, are they offended by, are you okay with, don't. It's too risky. In this day and age of people being offended about being offended, don't do it. I'm laughing because it's true. Don't try and gauge, don't try and find out. You know the person that's in front of you, right? Like, obviously, the average session is an hour. So you're spending an hour with this person. I'm pretty sure conversations have popped up, communications have happened. You hear how this person talks. You start to get an idea how this person thinks. You can pretty much tell if a statement you make or a phrase you choose to iterate, or a topic, how this person will react. Don't try and test the waters with them to see, oh, this guy's pretty cool. Let me see how he feels about gauge. Don't do it. Don't, because it could be the first and the last time. So stay away from it. Always say, let the client lead with their humor. Let them show you things that they enjoy. Whether you're talking about shows, movies, comedians, different things. Like, let them show you their level of humor, knowledge, interaction, and then you spin off of that. But don't try and test the waters with them. That's the worst thing you could do. Lastly, waiver, liability. or documented agreement. Paper. You want it in writing. You want an agreement. Technology. You got DocuSign or confirm with a yes or you know your certifications. A lot of certifications come with insurance, liability. Again, documented agreements because you want to have the context, regardless of what happens. Right? You could be going great with a client for 6 months, a year. And then let's say life happens and they decide they want a refund or they want to pull out or they just don't like training with you anymore for any reason. Make sure you have an agreement in place so they can understand exactly what happens and what they signed up for. It's protection for yourself. And you have to remember you are your own business and no one is responsible for your protection other than you. So have these things in place and reference them if need be. So, especially the waiver, because anyone could get injured at any given time, and it may not be your fault. A wet floor in a gym may not be your fault, but because you're the first chain of command, guess what happens? You get sued. All right. So make sure you have some documented, not just a verbal handshake, not just we cool, have something context on paper or saved a file, something, email to protect yourself and also to protect your clients. Number 7, you made it to the end. Software. And this one is a little long in the tooth, but it's very important. Even since I wrote this, a lot has changed just with technology. So you have to jump on the trend because it's not a trend, whether you like it or not, right? It's becoming very much a part of our lives and households already. So you might as well use it, else you have a hard time. Utilize technology to save time. 2025, you should not be using Google Docs, Google Sheets. You should be able to have clicks. You think of it this way. You want to service as many people as possible. That means you want to be able to just click something. That's what technology is for, to streamline the process. Because if you're inputting everything outside of designing, you're losing money. Your time is valuable. And now also you're charging more than you should because you're creating a price point based upon the time that you're expending for creating said programs or plans. But if you could save time, you can charge a little bit less and take on more as opposed to one or two at, let's say, for $100. You can take 10 at $200. Utilize sports watches, track heart rates, calories burned, sleep patterns. These things make not only the process easier, but it helps the client see exactly what's happening. So as opposed to us having expertise and knowledge and the person you're talking to having to take your word for it because they don't know, that's why they turn to you. You can show them exactly what's happening. You can show them, hey, you're not pushing hard enough. You know why? Your heart rate is only at 76. You see what I'm saying? Or your performance has suffered today. You didn't really get good sleep last night. What did you do differently? Or you didn't have a development in your weight loss. You didn't lose any weight. Well, let's see. You've only been burning 100 calories, 200 calories during your exercise away from your training sessions. You're not doing anything. Instead of them looking at you crazy, you can show them. It's all there for tracking. So many of us have these tools, right? Like whether it's a Apple Watch, Fitbit, heart rate monitor, and we don't use them for what they are. They're there to make your life easier and give you visual representations instead of us guesstimating right in front of you exactly what happened. So utilize it. Tablets and laptops. In this day and age, tech looks cool. On top of it serving a purpose, you want to come across as a professional. You want to come across as somebody respected. You want to come across as somebody who knows what they're doing, right? What better way than to utilize the tools of tech? Laptops, same thing. Yes, books are great. Yes, notepads are great. Some of us need different stimuli. But if you have something that can keep track of everything, organized for you, and you could bring with you, why wouldn't you utilize that? Tablets, same thing. You can show the plan, you could show the program, you could show direction, demonstrate graphs, profiles, all these different things right at your fingertips. Why wouldn't you use those? Again, it's you're branding yourself, you're creating more value in this process, and it's making it easier to understand for the client. It's a win win. Next, we got scales. A lot of these scales have digital metrics. They they can be hit or miss, but not all of the things are off because a lot of them are water based, electrode based. They do give you some sort of, again, visual direction, visual numbers. You taking away all the guesswork with coaching and training. You're showing people exactly what you're talking about. Hey, you want to build muscle. Let's see what your starting point is. Okay, you got 125 pounds of skeletal muscle. Let's see where we can go. Let's try and get to 130. Whatever it is, utilize these tools, the metrics that they have, be it body fat percentage, we have use these because it takes away the guesswork. The customer can see it. You guys can understand it. You can see exactly what's happening. You, the coach, the trainer, can say, okay, cool. We got a couple more pounds of fat to lose to get you to this said body fat. It makes it easier. Next, tape measure. When all else fails, the old trusty tape measure. Because you will have clients who, let's say they recomposition. They might stay the same weight for an entire year, but they'll look completely different. So if you don't measure them, again, you want them to see results because we got to remember this. We look at ourselves every day, right? In the mirror. So we're not going to necessarily see the changes unless we sit there and study them. So if you have metrics in place be it week to week, bi weekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever it is you decide. You can show them, and that continues to add value to your services. Plus, some people have specific goals that they want. They say, hey, I want 18-inch arms, 20-inch arms, or 32-inch waist, whatever. That person hits that goal, guess what? Ka-ching, that's better for you, man. Like, you want to brand yourself across the board. And it's very simple. Tape measure, you can get them at the hardware store. It doesn't have to be fancy. But again, another resource to show development, progress, growth visually, contextually. All right. Next, we got texting, calling, and FaceTime. Not that way. So, what I mean is utilizing what you have, right? Text your clients, man. Check in on them. Call them. Whether you setting up check ins or not, FaceTime. Be present because you're their coach. They want you to hold them accountable. So use those tools to reach out to them throughout the week. You can set up a schedule. You can say, hey, on Fridays at 2 o'clock, I'm gonna check in with you. You don't have to do an all day thing of texting with them back and forth. Some clients you will because you have, better relationships. That's perfectly fine. But use the technology that you have to reach out to them. So it makes things smoother. It brands yourself. It retains clients, right? Because you're adding value to what you have, to your services. You're extending your services. Next, we got calculations and tabulations. Learn how to use them. Learn how to use your metrics to achieve visual, numerical goals for your clients. Show them exactly what you're doing. So it doesn't seem like you're just pulling numbers out of the air, right? Break things down for them. Try and make it as simple as possible because you got to remember, they're coming to you for a physically driven service and they're not the expert. So once you start talking these numbers and you use the terms, be it describing body parts, they can get lost in a lot of things. So if you start talking about, all right, cool, we go take away 250 of your daily macros, but you're looking at your maintenance being 2,000, and we're going to increase to 500 because we're putting you start losing people. So if you keep track of exactly what those things are, even if you're saying that phrase, which you have to do because you have to explain it to them, break down the formula, break down the tabulation to them so they can see, oh, okay, that makes sense. Utilize those tools, utilize those tracking metrics. All right. Next, curb unnecessary usage. You shouldn't be during your sessions. No, unless you're notating, tracking, or searching for something you agreed upon with your client, you should not be, your client is doing, let's say 12 reps of a chest press, and you like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. No. Again, if your client doesn't see it, other people see it. And now you're unprofessional. You're not going to get more business. And you're probably going to lose the person you have. Because I guarantee you, at some point in time, they'll see it. Next, we got emails, online follow ups. And you can utilize this with text messaging too, but you want to follow up with your clients. Utilize whatever tools you need, check back in with them. Also, communicate when you'll be checking back in with them so they know when to look. The same way you set an appointment to have them show up, set an appointment to follow up. So, hey, this is one thing I do. Like, let's say I always give out a free session first, right? And with my free session, I confirm my free session 24 hours out. So if Saturday 7 a.m. is your free session, I'm gonna give a little headway. Friday 7 or 8 a.m. I'm sending a text message to confirm that you will be there. See, what happens is when you follow up, number one, not only is it professional, but two, it creates an agreement. And now, if that person wants to back out, there's a level of guilt. Remember, you're trying to be that coach. You're trying to hold them accountable. You're trying to teach them things. They're learning in that moment, oh, wow, this person truly is holding me accountable. Let me put my trust in them. So you want to follow up with your clients. And again, you can agree whenever you want to follow up, but do it. And lastly, apps and websites. Please, no more Google Sheets. Please. You I know we know how to use them, but it's so much better technology out there. And you'll be surprised when someone sees your app or an app. It doesn't have to be your app specifically. And they can have everything in front of them. They can have everything right there. It's so much easier, man. When you send a spreadsheet, that's work. Think about it. It's work. You go to work and you open whatever software they're using and you go into there and you start seeing all these different columns and rows. You immediately check out. So imagine somebody who has no idea what they're signing up for. You send that over to them and then you're like, all right, I want you to follow this. Bro, when you have the option of having something so sleek and simple, go onto this website, input this, type this in, boom, everything will show up. Your profile will be here. We'll track you this way. It creates simplicity. You have to remember your goal is to extend your services effectively, professionally, and concisely as possible because your services are for a set period of time, right? But in branding yourself, you're going to have to extend that time outside of that session that you create. Being 100% honest with you, don't you want to minimize how much time you spend with that client outside of that session? Because remember, you may not be getting paid for that. So if you're spending an extra hour putting together a program and plan, spending an extra hour communicating with them, all these different metrics you're trying to incorporate, and you look up that 1 hour session turns into a 3 hour session because you didn't incorporate software to cut time. It becomes a nightmare, and eventually you quit or lose a client or you don't persevere. There's you love what you do, but then you start hating what you do. So the end goal is to make sure you can show up and give your clients the best of you because you enjoy what you do, right? That's why you're here. So show it. Utilize those tools. And that is the 7S method. And what does that S translate? Money. Yep. Because as much as we love what we do, we still got to pay our bills. And notice you got the two lines through the S. And what are those two lines that create the dollar sign? You and your client. If you utilize this method of professionalism, it will make you a great trainer, coach, instructor because you have guidelines. These are guidelines. This is my rule book for you that you can utilize at any time and refer to. If you ever feel your business is suffering, or you feel a little misdirection or lost, or you feel like something is lacking, you can always refer back. The same way let's say you buy a new TV, right? And you open it up, boom, you start utilizing it. And then all of a sudden you forget how to change the picture, the photo. You go back to the handbook and you learn how to use it all over again. You're like, man, I didn't know I could change the frame rate. I didn't know I could do picture in picture. I, it, it's the same thing. So you give yourself the opportunity to continue to grow, make money, doing what you love to do, helping others to the best of your capability. You want to be a force in your industry. And what that means is maximizing your individual interactions with your consumer right in front of you. And that's what this method is doing. It gives you confidence. So now you can approach that person with your gifts and not worry about that gray area of will this client view me in a certain way if I do this, or if I handle this, or if I speak that way. You already know. This method taught you how to handle those things, to put boundaries for yourself and for your client. Because in this industry, in the coaching industry, we don't have that. There is no rule books. There is no policy. You wake up and you're a coach now. You're a trainer. Now what? I've heard horror stories. Some trainers go back to sleep. Some trainers decide they don't want to train today. Some trainers take people's money and then change phone. I've heard all the horror stories. But this is your handbook. These are your guidelines to put you on a path to greatness so you can conquer your environment and dominate. I didn't have it figured out. I just didn't quit. That's the only distinguishing quality. I went through every emotion. The late, great Nipsey Hussle. Look, I know it seems like this industry is saturated. You know, you can get lost with fitness influencers and following trends and trying to go viral, social media. It's a lot. I know. But that's why I designed this to give you confidence in yourself. Because, see, the same accountability and discipline we're trying to instill into our clients, we have to execute those things within ourselves. Is it going to be hard? Hell yeah. You're building a business from scratch. So that means maybe you just start with family members until you build that confidence in your skill set. But you don't quit. You're building the same discipline you're trying to instill in your clients. That's why I always say lead by example because they're trusting you. So you have to do the work. You have to dig in, even when you don't want to. Even when it's summertime and your clients are going on vacation. It's wintertime and services get pushed to the back burner for the holidays. You got to keep fighting. You got to rebrand yourself. You have to keep navigating the storm because in this world, as an entrepreneur, you are the rules, you are the regulations, you are the laws. So you have to continually show up for yourself. Your clients are not going to give you that. But if you have confidence, if you have something, a reference point to look back on, like this method, now you can step forward and say, I'm not as lost as I would have been, and I'm confident in who I am because I'm protecting myself. So now I just get to figure out the other things as opposed to the small things, which all of these are, but these can be make or break issues. So you're going to go through every emotion. You're going to hate this some days. You're going to want to cry, yell, scream. This is stupid. It's frustrating. I've been doing this since '07, and I guarantee you, you will have the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. You might want to hold on to your previous job. You might want to keep a part time job until you build that confidence within. Maybe you do always keep a part time job. Whatever's going to give you comfort, but you have to show up. Don't quit. It is not saturated. Let me say this: the United States is the fattest country on the planet. 50 states and territories. We know what our food is and does to us. As we continue to progress in society, as we're growing, food is going to continue to grow as well, which means we are only going to have more people out of shape. Just being honest with you. Let me stop trying to sugarcoat it. And the thing is that I stress to trainers, you will always attract your tribe. So don't get discouraged when the trainer next to you has a certain amount of people that you don't, or a certain type of clientele that you don't, because you will attract your tribe. There is more than enough to go around. You will have some people that you get along with that they don't get along well with other trainers. Your tribe will attract to you as long as you are doing the work. People will see you, people will find you. Again, market yourself, push, advertise, work on those individual things that you don't like to do, but just don't quit because there's more. This is a industry where you can set your own price points, man. I know it's hard, but that's a whole lot of comfort. Being honest with you, man, that's a whole lot of comfort in knowing, hey, man, I want to charge $80 an hour. And you might be cutting your client base or increasing your client base based upon that price point, but just don't quit. And when things change, you change. That's the only constant in this world is evolution. So take the necessary steps to continue to evolve. This 7S method will help take you from good to great. That's it. Y'all made it. That's my business number. That's my Instagram handle, Facebook handle. I'm David Moore, Master Certified Personal Trainer. Feel free to send me an email. Y'all ready to work? Inquiries? Questions? Feel free, y'all. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you staying. I put great effort in this, great thought, went through a lot. And I don't get here without reflecting on my resources, my experience, my clients, and also my peers. So I thank you for your time. And this is my gift to you.